Yeah, you got absolutely timer baited. Absolutely timer baited. Get frickin'
Yeah, you got
get
absolutely timer
baited. Absolutely timer baited. Why do I have feedback coming through?
Yeah, you got
Get
absolutely timer baited.
I'm over. It's done.
Absolutely
Stream's ruined.
timer baited.
Why do I have feedback? I'm watching myself live.
Get baited.
I'm over. It's done. Stream's ruined. Oh no. Oh no. Good God. Good God, it's all falling apart already and we haven't even started. Yeah, you absolutely got the load screen into load screen. You absolutely got hit with that. Okay, I think everything is kosher now. What's up, everybody? What is up? Grab a snack, grab a drink. We're gonna start right away here. Playing banjo while waiting? I don't know if you mean Banjo-Kazooie or the literal banjo. I personally hope it's Banjo-Kazooie. Yeah, hit the like button if you're just rolling in. Helps out the channel a lot. Much appreciated. What's up, Brian? Was in the middle of the video when you saw I was gonna watch it? Good, 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 John. Good, good, good. Glad to see you in here, man. Karl makes some of the best videos about speedrunning in the entire YouTube. Agreed 100%. I actually do just like watch Karl's content. Yeah. I enjoy Karl's content. So. It's absolutely falling apart and we haven't even started. Quote from Dennis Kahn, WATA Games. Is that in this documentary, Zoiks? Oh, I hope it is. I hope it is. Real banjo, Albert. Ugh, I don't know if I should be impressed that you have a talent that goes beyond video games and, you know, a real life talent, or if I should be disappointed that you're not playing Banjo-Kazooie. I'm really at odds with this one. Really at odds with this one. Video is super blurry. It looks like I'm picking up 1080 on my viewer account here, so you might just have to refresh if that's the case. Because you should be able to get it in at full 1080. Was happy to see me in this one? Yeah, I was fucking stoked about that too. That was good shit. I saw just some people in the Discord and talking about it, so. Video is crisp, looks good, 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 good. That's what I thought. Yeah, I thought we were good on that, so. No worries there. Perfect. Perfect, perfect. Good to hear, guys. Good to hear. So, I mean, early indications on this video are that, or just what I've seen anyway, from within the sealed graded community, are that it doesn't bring a whole lot of new stuff to the surface. It just kind of rehashes. You know what I mean? It does bring some new stuff, but compared to the other one, which was really a bomb drop, which if you haven't seen the first video right here, where Karl first talked about it, 1.4 mil views, holy shit. That this one is not as much of a bomb drop, just kind of builds off of what was already presented. So, we will see, we will see. I'm excited to see what he has to say. I've heard he has a lawyer in it. So, yo, Alexum, $2 donation there, £2, €2 donation. Holy shit, man, that's like 3 something Canadian. That's big. Much appreciated, man. Much appreciated. Some new stuff, some new angles on already out there stuff. The new video mainly just explains for mouth breathers things covered in the first video. Good. Good, good, good. How do you access the Discord? Should be in the description. Link in the description, CCT. I did see your message on my YouTube video as well. I am going to get back to you after this video. Just been kind of busy today. But I did see your message, CCT, and yeah, I'll get back to you on that. Link to Discord in the description. So. That's funny you say it's for mouth breathers who are covered in the first one. I'm hoping that he, you know, the first video had a lot of like, not he said, she said type shit, but like speculative insinuations without a whole lot of not a whole lot of concrete stuff that was like verifiable proof. So hopefully, I guess with the lawyer coming in and with other stuff, he makes more actual claims of the legality of the stuff. We'll see. That's what I'm hoping for with this video. Because I don't know shit about the legality of everything that was talked about. You know what I mean? So I really want to see what is or isn't illegal in actual, like, the eyes of the law. If I want to piggyback off the Karl video a bit and draw views, you could release a spreadsheet update on Mizkif's collection, since he's probably going to watch this on stream soon. Yeah, man, Nightissi, I was also thinking about that. Night Icy might actually be your name. I was also thinking about doing that because since I made that Mizkif video, the prices of his games are probably down quite a bit now since I first did that video, because that video was nearing the peak of what we saw. So on an update video, I mean, he could be down 20, 30, 40% on some of those items, if not overall. So yeah, I think it would be a really honest update video now, because obviously I fluffed up the first one with the title and everything, like, look how much money Miz made. I think it'd be a good video now to show that if you fucking raced into this, you also could lose a lot of money. So I am also, yeah, I want to do an update video on that as well. Not only to piggyback views, because yeah, obviously it would probably do well. Anytime you can, you know, leech off another bigger content creator, it's a good thing, but we'll see. We'll see. If you want to boost those sweet, sweet views, I'd suggest making a video of you smashing a water game with a hammer. Zoix, I've thought about that as well. I honestly have, because with some of those WATA games, like we see in the Heritage Weeklies, you can buy a water-graded game for like $100 US shipped, which isn't bad if the plan is only to smash it. So I mean, not even just a nefarious smashing type activity, but like drop test or water test or other types of damage, you know what I mean? I think would both be entertaining as well as informative. But yeah, I want to do like videos, Zoix, where I smash water-graded games. I mean, I'm not some kind of weirdo who can't smash a water-graded game because it's like breaking history or something. So yeah, I do want to do something like that. I love those videos when some of the Pokemon guys and card guys do, like, you know, stress tests. So yeah, exactly, lava test. Exactly, you get it, Skate Soup, you get it. You get it perfectly. You know exactly what gets the views. Yes, Jaden, surprise Greg stream. Yo, Super Junk. The USPS test is the ultimate test? Yeah, I think it was, who the hell? Deep Pocket Monster just made his video related to that idea. Yeah, which shipping services damages my Pokemon cards the most? So, no, I don't think I can do a video, to that degree, but I can definitely do a video where we do some stress tests against WATA cases. So I still need to watch this video from Deep Pocket Monster. Red Hot Iron Ball versus WATA case. Yeah, like, wasn't liquid aluminum a really popular thing too? Where people would just see what liquid aluminum would do to things. We can hit it with all that stuff. I think I can get that. Do I think it's a good time to sell VGA graded games, or rather wait for the pop reports from VGA? It depends what you're holding, WB Coco. Because pop reports can both help and hurt you. Like, I know with everybody is treating the pop reports right now as a positive thing, because realistically the numbers are low. Like, there's not many games that had really high numbers. Like Mario Bros 3, I think, was the highest at 237. So the VGA pop reports will probably help you overall, but there is possibility that you're holding something, because I don't know what you're holding, that will come out with like a super high pop count that would actually hurt you based on, you know, relativity. So I don't think it's item dependent. Item dependent. Let's put it that way. Miz is a clown. He bought an already opened MK64. Yeah, he fucked up. El Presador, he fucked up big time, but I mean, hey. most people are gonna make mistakes when they first enter into this hobby. It's just a shame that he did it on such a big scale. Yes, this will be my first time watching Super Junk. Last night, I did hold off from watching this video. So, I did hold off. VGA Pop Report release date, there is no set in stone date yet for that. No date is set in stone yet, so we're just waiting. It was supposed to be by the end of the year, I think, based on their first update notice, but I don't know if that's going to happen. Combine a new topic with an old topic. 1,000 degree knife. There! Yes, 1,000 degree knife as well. I forgot about that trend. Now that's the one we need to do. God, you guys are view monsters. These ideas, I should be taking notes. Can't wait for WATA versus hydrofluoric acid. Hope you can pull through, Greg. Yeah, like... It's crazy that, you know, like, it sounds like memes, but undoubtedly those videos would fucking crush. Like, undoubtedly those videos would blow up to some degree. So, scammers already cashed in the money. Also, they are backlogged with games being sent in for grading, a market which they essentially created artificially. Pops Report will hit them all where it hurts. Yes, yeah. It's a tale of two mentalities right now, TX. So some people really are thinking that, like, you know, Reserved Investments did a victory lap on them, and some other people, I think Pat and Ian just did a video too, saying that the pop reports on the number of games that came out already on the pop report are super high, which is quoting numbers of like 50, 60, you know, Mario Bros 100 and some. And there's two mentalities of it, are those numbers high or are those numbers actually low based on where demand could be in the next 1 to 5 years. If the hobby grows, is a number of 50 Mike Tyson punch-outs high? I don't think it is, personally. An example of N64 Donkey Kong 64 and... An example of N64 Donkey Kong 64, 95. I think it's a good time to sell. I think it's always a good time to sell something like that. Pop reports will probably help you a bit because, I mean, 95 is an incredible grade. You know, if a pop report comes out, maybe there'll be 10 to 20 of them at most. So the pop report will help you, but a 95 doesn't really need help to be sold at a premium. That's already an amazing grade, so... You cannot believe how far Atari games have dropped. Yeah. Atari games are, most of them anyway, a lot of them are free, basically. Gallagher Hammer plus Watermelon plus WATA game equals gold. I'm unfamiliar with the guy who fucked up, and I've heard of you guys mention it before. Can I elaborate for a sec on what that's about? Curious to see the video here, read the story. Yeah. It's Mizkif. So he is a live streamer, just does variety content, I guess is the best way to understand it. But he got into video game collecting very deep in 2020, 2021, give or take. And someone else uploaded my shit. Nice. But he made a video showing off his collection, and he bought qualified games thinking that they were factory sealed. So right here in my thumbnail, he has an 85 plus qualified Mario Kart 64 that he bought under the pretense of being factory sealed, qualified being open, and it's honestly a mistake that cost him fucking thousands upon thousands. So yeah, crazy, crazy, crazy. That's a little bit on Mizkif, who he is and why it matters. Oh shit, it's Karl time! It's Karl time, everybody! Let me get everything set here. Let me get everything set. Grab a drink. Grab your snacks. Get settled. I lost him. This isn't my viewing YouTube. I have a different YouTube that I use for pure viewing. So that algorithm is so unoptimized it hurts me. Why would they give such a low pop count? I don't think they're being deceitful in any way, Breaker Illusion. I think the pop counts are just lower than was anticipated by a lot of people. I think that is the true pop count. It's as of November 1st, so there is, 30 days of delay there, but those numbers just are what those numbers are. So I don't think there's any kind of deceit in the numbers that they presented. So also, I have from the concession a nice cranberry ginger ale here because I'm seasonal as fuck. So as soon as like November hits, Canada lights up with cranberry flavored shit, and I'm all for it. I don't know if America follows that as well, but oh, hopefully you guys got some can opening ASMR right there. So I'm ready to go. Just click in here. We can watch some beautiful ads because no, I do not have YouTube Premium.
We protect humanity, whatever the cost.
You guys have to let me know how the audio is on, I'll just give you
On August 24th,
a little flavor here of Karl.
Exposing fraud and deception
So you guys can get a taste of the audio, so you can just let me know if it needs to go up or down.
I outlined the unethical practices of two companies that lie at the center of
And I'm probably gonna also theater mode this shit. I think this will be the optimal viewing experience. I'm just gonna see what it looks like.
Retro video games has
Yeah, sick ginger ale sponsor, exactly.
leading many people, including myself.
That's all the flavor you get. Needs to go up. Okay.
To estimate.
Try it again.
Hello, you absolute legends. On August 24th, I released a video titled Exposing Fraud and Deception in the Retro Video Game Market. In that video, I outlined the unethical practices of two companies that lie at the center of the booming retro video game secondary market. In the past several years, the value...
That's all you get? Better? Good. Have I seen the video yet? I have not, Kyle. I have not watched this yet. Last night, everyone was blowing up on it, and I had to refrain myself because I genuinely wanted to watch it for the first time with you guys. A tad quieter than you, but not terrible. Should he be louder than me? Perhaps he should be louder than me. I can probably make him a little bit louder. So... You saw Sprite Cranberry in the store all the way back in October. America puts Christmas stuff out very early. Oh shit. Wow. We usually don't make the transition to the Christmas until the day after Halloween. Sounds good? Oh, and fuck, I completely ignored your donation, Nintendo Gal. I completely saw it. Thank you for the $20 donation. Holy shit. Much appreciated. I completely saw it, and then I meant to comment on it, and then I completely forgot. Crazy. Volume's good? Good shit, good shit. Let me just move over my second screen here so I can see full screen view. Whew. Number 19 on trending. Fucking Karl, hey? Just brings in the views. Crazy. Chat box on stream looks frozen because it is frozen. Thank you for the update on that. It's because I have to tab over because I'm only working on a single monitor right now. So I have to continually be tabbing in the chat to get it going. You do unspeakable things for Cranberry Sprite year-round? Yeah, so would I, for sure. I used to have, like, fucking 48 of them, like a couple of pallets of them, because my friend worked at Coke, and I kind of got sick of it, to be completely honest, but, whew, Cranberry Sprite's good stuff. With all of that said, this is probably going to be the official start of the YouTube video. I think I am going to edit this, so... Welcome to the live party watch of Karl's new video. The retro video game scam gets worse. If you haven't already seen the first video released by Karl, you don't need to watch it, I don't think, in order to have full context of what's going to go on in this video. But Karl Jopes did release a video back in August, I believe, covering the retro video game scam that was taking place between WATA, Heritage, and sealed and graded video games. So that got a whole bunch of views, 1.4 million, I believe. And now we are here to watch the updated video in which I guess he brings in a lawyer to talk about stuff and just really hammers down where his issues lie and the legality of some of the issues discussed. So I have not watched this yet. We're all here to watch it together. And without further ado, we can jump into it. Just gonna make sure my chat's good here before I hit play. Post and announcements? Oh, I don't know. I already fucking... Okay, fine. I'll post to the Discord quick. When you know you're going to edit something, it makes life so much easier, I have to say. Because I can just kind of fuck around with much more freedom. Get that going in the announcements. I'm not gonna ping everyone again because I pinged everyone last night kind of by accident, so yeah, fundraiser to get me a second monitor. I need to get up one of those sub goals or dono goals on my chat so we can all donate to get Greg a second monitor. What are those chips? They look so cheesy. Those are they're Hawkins brand cheesies that I was holding. I don't know if Americans have them. I was talking to another Canadian about this. I don't know if Americans get Hawkins brand cheesies, but that's what those are that I'm holding in the thumbnail. Hawkins brand cheesies. Good shit. Good shit. Really good shit. If you do have them and you've never tried them, I prefer them much more than like Cheetos. Much better than Cheetos. But on that note, let's fucking get into it.
You absolute legends. On August 24th, I released a video titled Exposing Fraud and Deception in the Retro Video Game Market. In that video, I outlined the unethical practices of two companies that lie at the center of the booming retro video game secondary market. In the past several years, the value of sealed retro video games has risen by several thousand%, leading many people, including myself, to estimate we are witnessing the formation of a brand new speculative bubble. The two companies responsible are WATA Games, a video game grading company, and Heritage Auctions. In my video, I outlined specifically how these two companies colluded to artificially and deceptively increase the perceived value.
Don't worry, if you haven't watched the first one, he's giving you a quick recap here.
I outlined how the heads of these companies abused their positions to directly manipulate the market, and not only that, but used their positions to personally gain.
This is literally like a last time on Dragon Ball Z, so like, you're getting up to speed quick here.
Finally, I exposed how this isn't the first time this has been done, and the same person at the very top of the hierarchy was directly involved with the rare coin bubble that was manufactured in the 80s. When I made the video, I wasn't sure how you would all react. When I look at the situation, it seems fraught with shady and immoral practices, but it wasn't obvious if anyone else would connect with my message. However, it was immediately clear that almost everyone who watched the video agreed that this wasn't right. The evidence was so overwhelmingly clear that I could find very few people that even attempted to defend the actions of these companies. And those that did defend them were always within the retro video game market themselves and stood to gain from rising prices. Even video game journalists, those that had favorably reported on WATA and Heritage Auctions, seemed to agree that there was possible collusion between the two. The best attempt I saw at rationalizing the actions of these companies was, it isn't illegal, as if legality is the purest benchmark for ethical
I'm pretty sure I said
practices. Well, in this video, we will put that defense to the test, because in my opinion, the actions of WATA Games and Heritage Auctions were illegal, and I'll explain exactly how in this video. In the past couple of months, more information surrounding the individuals responsible has surfaced, and I have to say, this new information hasn't improved the situation. The depth of their dishonesty is worse than I previously thought. Since my video, most of the parties have responded, and one thing is certainly clear: they do not care. Even with universal damnation, they deny any wrongdoing whatsoever. Today, I will spell out why their actions were wrong and why they were illegal. I will even have an actual lawyer weigh in on a few of these issues. I will share with you some shocking new revelations that make things even worse than we thought. And finally, we will take a look at some good things that have happened since my last video. I hope you enjoy.
It really does seem like, you know, a true crime documentary, the way he proses all this stuff. Which, I mean, good. Like, I'm all for it. I think I've made it pretty clear to all of you guys that, you know, good, bad, ugly, this is just the market, and this is just graded game collecting, and we're all gonna have to wade through this shit together if you want to participate, so. But yeah, there's your quick recap. I mean, 3 minutes were spent getting you all caught up to speed, so that should do you nicely.
Now, legends, please join me in thanking this video sponsor, Displate.
We are absolutely not going to join him in his in-video sponsor. Yeah, no. Surely you guys all skip that too, right? I would love to see actual stats on like in-video sponsorships like that as to why they are still like like done so prevalently as they are. Also, my skip on that in-video sponsor was fucking flawless. I just want to point that out. But yeah, I would love to see if they actually work. Yeah, you absolute legends. This video brought to you by our sponsor, Cranberry Ginger Ale today. May you always be refreshed with Cranberry Ginger Ale. Yeah, exactly. I need to cut that display money if we're fucking running that sponsorship.
Before we get to the updates, let's very quickly recap what was covered in my previous video. I began
Didn't we just talk about what was covered in his first video?
by explaining how speculative bubbles are created. The price of an asset rises in a relatively short amount of time, leading people to buy those assets in the hope that the value will increase so they can then sell them and turn a profit. As more investors buy in, the price rises even further, creating a positive feedback loop. When the price inevitably stalls, everyone sells and the value crashes. But not before everyone who invested early has already made off with a ton of money. I explained how in the retro video game market, there are two institutions that lay at the very epicenter and stand to gain the most. The grading company, which in this case is WATA Games, and the auction house, which in this case is Heritage Auctions.
No, I'm not here to hate on Karl.
Companies have existed for a while, most notably VGA, which was formed over...
I spent more than enough time talking and getting to understand Karl's shit, where I wouldn't at all place myself on the side of hating on Karl, but I am here to observe, comment, and give an opinion on what he is presenting.
A decade ago. But it wasn't until WATA Games was founded that the price of retro video games skyrocketed. This is because WATA and Heritage colluded with one another to artificially inflate the perceived value. They achieved this through press releases, news articles, and TV appearances. In each case, deceptive and unethical marketing practices were used to make things appear more organic than they really were. We learned about the fractional share companies that were buying and trading games. We touched on Eric Nyerman as an example of a speculator masquerading as a video game collector in order to artificially inflate hype. I explained the practice of shill bidding and how Heritage Auctions has been accused of this practice in the past. We also uncovered how the heads of WATA Games were using the company for their own benefit, specifically Jeff Meyer, who graded and sold his own collection, despite the president of WATA, Dennis Kahn, publicly stating this was disallowed. Finally, we explored the rare coin bubble of the 80s, and how Jim Halperin, the chairman of Heritage Auctions and buyer of the Super Mario Bros. Cart that arguably sparked this entire new market, was directly involved. The response to this video from the public was overwhelming. Everyone seems to be in agreement that the way WATA and Heritage went about things was wrong. Even news outlets picked up on the story.
Yeah, I agree. We're only ever going to be better off.
Even the responses from collectors was mostly positive.
Let's go,
and
Greg!
They agreed that more transparent...
Let's go! Hey, let's go, everybody!
was required, especially when it came to population reports, which to this day are still nowhere to be found. Many collectors disagreed, however, that we are currently in a bubble, and in their opinion, the value of games...
Yeah, if you guys don't know, Karl actually spent a lot of his own time interviewing some of the people who are deep into sealed and graded collecting. Right here, he's sitting down with D-Rob Gaming at the top and Tom Curtin, Minus Worlds on the side, just to get other perspectives of people who are actually participating in this market. And this was done after his first video because I don't know if he felt personally that what he presented might not have been fully accurate or fair on the side of collecting on the sealed game side, but he did spend a lot of time just interviewing, talking with, and like he joined the Video Game Sage forums too. He was on there chatting just yesterday. So, I mean, Karl also is out there putting in time to try his best to understand the people who actually operate in this market, who aren't just looking to scam or bullshit, but like people who are just in this hobby, in this market, and have been well before WATA ever came. So, copyright strike them. Yeah, send Karl a fucking copyright strike.
Games are only now getting to the level that they should have been years ago. In all fairness, when it comes to estimating the strength of a market, those that are experienced within that market are in a better position to do so. And from the conversations I've had with investors in this market, I believe that many of them really do genuinely think that video games are worth this much. And maybe they are. The metrics that make me suggest a bubble is forming is the speed at which these prices have increased and the deceptive way that new investors were brought in. In my opinion, you can't have such a dramatic shift in the value without ongoing consequences. And in this case, I do think the rapid rise in prices will lead to overvalued games. But at the end of the day, arguing about whether or not this is a bubble doesn't do any good, as ultimately only time can tell what the truth is.
2-hour fucking interview with that dude.
Is the unethical business practices that were conducted by those at the top of the food chain. And speaking of which, both WATA and Heritage did respond to my video. Unfortunately, the responses were underwhelming. Let's start with the statement given by WATA. WATA Games is the trusted leader in collectible video game grading and...
I'm wearing the same tank top. Oh, let me just go back a second here. You guys might have noticed this by now from my videos. I don't exactly have a whole wardrobe of clothing, so you're gonna see a lot of the same clothes used in videos. Sorry, I had to point that out. Just hilarious.
WATA Games is the trusted leader in collectible video game grading, and we're honored to play a key role in this booming industry that we are incredibly passionate about. We're humbled by the support of our thousands of customers who trust us to provide accurate and transparent grading. These claims in this video are completely baseless and defamatory, and it is unfortunate that Mr. Jobst did not contact us to give us the opportunity to correct him. Apparently, despite my nearly hour-long video containing mountains of evidence, sources, and justification, WATA believes my claims to be baseless. They also claim that I never attempted to contact them, which is a lie. Through a mutual third party, Dennis was told directly that I wanted to speak with him, and he was well aware that I was producing a video, but he decided to not contact me. The response from Heritage Auctions was basically the same. Heritage Auctions wishes it had been given the opportunity to respond before the video's publication, because there are numerous misstatements of fact and inaccurate conclusions contained within the piece. Heritage strongly refutes any allegation that it or its officers are involved in shield bidding, market manipulation, or any similarly illegal or unethical practices. The common thread...
I will say on the response of both WATA and Heritage, they are both obviously just like boilerplate bullshit, nothing responses. But in the world of YouTube, Twitter, social media drama, a lot of like, I'm not saying that their responses are good, but their responses are good in the actual framework. I sound like a fucking idiot with that last sentence. But the responses are good in the framework of usually how cancel culture works, where Karl is going to get everyone really excited with his first video. It's going to cause a lot of conversation, discourse. But if both WATA and Heritage ignore it, which what they basically did, a lot of people simply move on because of how fast internet culture, how fast just news cycle changes. So in them not, like, trying to clear their name, so to speak, like, if you come out and you're like, oh, yeah, like, no, he got us, like, you know, if you also have too much of a defense, you look guilty. So if they want to look innocent about it, the best thing they kind of can do is just hope that it never escalates and make a blanket statement. Now, is that a good thing? No, it's a very shitty thing for actually... you know what I mean? Progressing the discourse, but on the side of Heritage and WATA, I understand why they responded like that, even if it's shitty. It's kind of one of those inevitabilities. If people ever try to cancel Greg, I'm just gonna fucking deny everything and ignore it. So, it seems to work pretty good. Yeah, and the third-party contact between Default Gen and Dennis is a little bit weird. I don't know why Karl didn't contact personally himself. I mean, I'm not going to nitpick about that too much. It sounds like Dennis was in the know, but it is weird that a third party was utilized for such an important one, right? Like, Dennis really is the most important contact, I think, that should have been talked to in the video or in a follow-up or anything. I don't know if it would change much, but Dennis to me is the most important guy. I don't think you'd ever get Jim Halperin, so people get Dennis all the time. Clipped? Yeah. Clipped and shipped. Thank you, Super Junk. Thank you, Super Junk.
Of these responses is that they refuse to comment on the blatant conflicts of interest that I brought up in my video. In a following press release, Heritage did go into more detail and actually admitted something that is truly shocking. They confirmed that Jim Halperin was a stakeholder in WATA Games, which means he was a part owner. This admission surprised me, because it makes the situation far worse, as we will get into, and it's not something the public would ever find out if it wasn't disclosed. SEC filings confirm that WATA securities were offered and purchased, but don't show who these stakeholders are. We also heard from Jeff Meyer and Mark Haspel, which we will take a look at later in the video. But first,
this is probably going to get pretty technical too, so just know that I do not have any expertise in law, and I might slow down or read what's presented on screen as we get to those points. So
let's take a closer look at the deceptive marketing practices that WATA and Heritage used, and why I believe their actions broke FTC
Dennis just yucking it up
regulations.
with Chumley there.
There is a better way to
Nice.
make money with Amazon than selling physical
Let's go
products.
ads.
Introducing the Mickelson twins.
Hi, I'm Christian, and this is my twin brother Rasmus. And we discovered this new and little-known Amazon
I don't know those twins. Should I know
The
those
critical
twins?
regulation that we need to become
Twins,
familiar
Basil,
with
twins!
is Statute 255.5 in Title 16 of the Code of Federal Regulations, called Disclosure of Material Connections. It states, when there exists a connection between the endorser and the seller of the advertised product that might materially affect the weight or credibility of the endorsement, such connection must be fully disclosed. An easy example to illustrate this rule is that social media influencers such as YouTubers need to clearly state that they have been paid or sponsored by a brand before they endorse them. This can be as simple as saying this video is sponsored by before saying the company name. But material connections aren't limited to being paid by a company to promote them. A material connection is any connection that would affect the credibility of an endorsement. According to the FTC itself, you must disclose when you have any financial, employment, personal, or family relationship with a brand. This disclosure must be hard to miss, and it must use simple and clear language. The FTC is actually very strict when it comes to these matters. According to the FTC, even so much as simply mentioning a brand on social media is considered an endorsement, and if you do have a connection to that brand, it must always be disclosed.
I do just want to read what he put up here on the notes. I work for a terrific company. Can I mention our products to people in my social networks? How about a review site? My friends won't be misled since it's clear in my online profiles where I work. If your company allows employees to use social media to talk about its products, you should make sure that your relationship is disclosed to people who read your online posting about your company or its products. Put yourself in the reader's shoes. Isn't the employment relationship something you would want to know before relying on someone else's endorsement? Listing your employer in your profile page isn't enough. After all, people who just read what you post on a review site won't get that information. People reading your posting on a review site probably won't know who you are. You definitely should disclose your employment relationship when making an endorsement. Okay. I don't know what this is clipped from. Some kind of legal definition, I assume?
Considered an endorsement, and if you do have a connection to that brand, it must always be disclosed. In 2017, the FTC took action against the YouTubers T. Martin and Syndicate for endorsing the online gambling service CSGO Lotto because they failed to disclose that they were joint owners. In this
If you guys have never watched about that CSGO Lotto, that's also super interesting stuff. Like, if you like this world of drama and bullshit, go watch CSGO Lotto afterwards and you'll have a lot of fun with that too. Crazy stuff.
Settlement, the FTC ordered that the respondents must not make any misrepresentation, expressly or by implication, that an endorser of such product or service is an independent user or ordinary consumer of the product or service. Furthermore, it was also ordered that they must not make any representation, expressly or by implication, about any consumer or other endorser of such product or service without disclosing clearly and conspicuously and in close proximity to that representation any unexpected material connection. The order clarified that clearly and conspicuously means that a required disclosure is difficult to miss, and most notably, it must be made through the same means through which the communication is presented. In other words, if a press release is made endorsing a product or service, the disclosure of any material connections must be made through that same press release. You can't fail to disclose in an endorsement and then claim that it was public knowledge so you didn't have to. That's not how the law works. Let's apply this statute to some scenarios we spoke about in the previous video. Firstly, the Heritage press release regarding the sale of the $100,000 Super Mario Bros. In February of 2019. This was the cart purchased by Jim Halperin, who, as we just found out, was a part owner of WATA. Geig, whose company Just Press Play had a business relationship with WATA, and Richard Lecce, who we also later found out was an investor in WATA and friend of Dennis Kahn. This press release contains a ton of endorsements without disclosure. Dennis Kahn, on behalf of WATA Games, says, "In terms of rarity, popularity, and relevance to collectors, this game has it all. And I would have loved nothing more than to be a part owner." Here, Dennis is endorsing the cart and advertising that it has great value, without disclosing that the owners of the cart have given his company money. Dennis also endorses Heritage, saying that WATA-certified video games have been selling for record prices ever since Heritage began auctioning them in January, without disclosing that the chairman of Heritage is a part owner of his company. Before we go on, you might ask yourself, is this illegal if they are telling the truth? Do they still need to disclose their connections if they are giving an honest opinion? The answer is yes, they do. It's a legal requirement that endorsements are truthful by default. You aren't allowed to give an opinion that isn't true or lie in an endorsement. So the FTC regulations are written under the assumption that marketing is truthful to begin with. The FTC states that an endorsement must reflect the honest opinion of the endorser and can't be used to make a claim that the product's marketer couldn't legally make. And in addition, if there's a connection between an endorser and the marketer that consumers would not expect, and it would affect how consumers evaluate that endorsement, that connection should be disclosed. Therefore, it doesn't matter if Dennis Kahn is telling the truth or giving his honest opinion. He has been given money by the people he is endorsing, and therefore it must be disclosed. Heritage also endorses WATA Games, without disclosing that the chairman of Heritage Auctions is a part owner of WATA. So what you have is two companies, WATA and Heritage, with deep, unexpected connections, endorsing each other without disclosing anything.
So essentially, I guess what he's saying is the Heritage Weekly would have to be like presented by WATA Games? Or like, you know, featuring WATA Games type thing right on the Heritage website as well, in order for it to be all compliant within the frameworks that he is laying out. I mean, this whole world is foreign to me, so I have to pay as much attention as I can here to try and understand it. But no, because as every gamer swag they received, it's hard to count. There were many paid trips to go places to learn about games. I bring this up because they don't always enforce these guidelines. You could listen to Karl explain anything? Yeah, seriously. Yes, lots of shady crap is going on, but it's a large crapshoot to see if any legal action will be taken. If you don't understand the way markets work, not just video games, and you don't understand what happened here, it's bigger than video games. No, for sure. For sure. Absolutely, that, you know, this is taking place in the realm of video games, but this type of shit is no different than if you see NFT getting pumped, or crypto, or CSGO, whatever the fuck it's called again. Like, I do understand the implications are far broader than simply talking about what's taking place in the video game world here. I do understand that, Johnny, for sure.
This press release is only scratching the surface, however.
We're here
Oh, for
the
fuck's
makers,
sakes.
the snowflakers, and or decorators.
I wanted to take a drink of my clearly and explicitly stated sponsor, Cranberry Ginger Ale.
10 days after the purchase of the Mario Kart, Ars Technica wrote an article titled, "Why is this copy of Super Mario Bros. Worth $100,000? In this article, Dennis Kahn states that this kart is the holy grail of collecting. He says that this kart is basically the most valuable video game kart in existence, with the only possible other contender being the original Zelda. Kahn compares this kart to that of Action Comics #1, which sold for $3.21 million in 2014, saying that he doesn't think those kinds of valuations are out of the question for the rarest, most desirable video games. And remember, this specific kart is the rarest of them all, according to Dennis Kahn. In essence, Kahn...
Yeah, that kind of talking, like, you know, he's not directly saying it's worth 3.21 million, obviously, but there's a lot of transitive property there where you can be like, oh, the most expensive comic book sells for this much, so this is the most expensive video game. It's like a sneaky way of not... It might not even be intentionally sneaky, but it's a way to just like associate values very quickly. And then if someone calls you on your shit, you can just be like, I never said it should be 3.21 million. I just said it should be, it's one of the grails of Nintendo collecting. And this is how much grails sell for in other hobbies. It's kind of like one of those, not talking circles, but you know what I mean? It's, I can't think of the thing. It's not wordplay. It's bullshitting without shitting. It's kind of funny.
is implying that the value of this kart is in the millions. All of this without disclosing that the owners of that kart had given him money and owned part of his company. By the way, just as a side note, what are the odds that the seller of the comic book that is being used to bump up the price of this Super Mario Kart is connected to WATA Games? Because the seller, Darren Adams, was also a director of WATA Games. So you can see there are a lot of connections here that we haven't
Okay, that's kind of funny.
So here is how I believe this racket worked. Jim Halperin helped create WATA Games by investing into the company. He then used his auction house and his other connections to endorse WATA and increase its credibility. He basically made it the grading company by force, even though it had only just launched. Halperin, along with two others, buys the Super Mario Kart for $100,000. 10 days later, the president of WATA Games, Dennis Kahn, values the kart at millions of dollars. That's an increase in perceived value of several thousand% in 10 days. They then did the same thing on Pawn Stars, where Dennis said that the value of the game has no ceiling, and that he had heard of rejected offers of at least $300,000. Again, Dennis, using his position at WATA, is increasing the perceived value of the kart without disclosing to the public that the owners of that same kart have given him money. The conflict of interest here is incredible, and Dennis Kahn was fully aware of that conflict from the beginning. In the Heritage Auctions press release, Dennis stated, "I would have loved nothing more than to be a part owner, and even though this game was already certified, I didn't want the remote perception of any conflict of interest due to my position at WATA." So Dennis admits that his position in the company is a conflict of interest, and yet keeps private the fact that the buyers of the kart were indeed also part owners of the same company. Dennis would repeat this sentiment multiple times. In a New York Times article, he states that transparency is paramount and WATA employees were not allowed to have any games graded by the company or sell those that were. And at conventions, he would tell people that due to the conflict of interest, he couldn't buy or sell games.
Yeah, they were trying to scam Chumley right in front of his fucking face.
Ago, I saw Dennis at one of the conventions.
Okay.
I said hi to Dennis. And he said, "I want to show you something over here." And I said, "Okay." He wanted to show me the case they were using for the Game Boy games.
Sure.
And I said something offhand about popularity, and he said something about, I said, like, the price is going up, and he said something along the lines of, "Yeah, I mean, I wish I could, sell some of these." And I said offhandedly, I said, you can't? Because I just wasn't thinking.
You weren't thinking about that.
It was a convention. It was busy. We were walking around, and he looks at me and he goes, "No, of course I can't." He's like, "That would be, bad." And so if obviously, if he couldn't, what I'm getting at is if he said he couldn't do it, that would obviously extend to other people in the upper.
Yes,
It wasn't just for employees; it was for everyone. His statement was for everyone involved.
To you personally.
Yeah, that's what he said to me personally, and that so
Because he understood as a founder of the company and owner of the company
that you
and
can't
executive
do that.
you
can't
I
do that.
cannot do insider trading. So to speak.
So Dennis was aware of that, and I mean made that very clear to me, that day. And like I said, that's an obvious thing. That's not something that should be explained to anyone. But like I said, it was busy, and I wasn't thinking. So he was like, "Yeah, I can't do that." So that does mean obviously anyone else.
It's clear that Dennis knew that it
I had to lean in there to fucking hear Ian when he started talking. Guy was whispering there on the podcast. Let me just got caught up with you guys a little bit here and get chat going. Yeah, Funko Pops are the ultimate apex of collecting. I agree with that. Dennis did get that wrong. So there's that. Collectors Universe is now doing the exact same thing, and the owner CU owns PSA collusion and shady shit everywhere. If we're going to treat collectible as investing opportunities, then yeah, I mean, this is never going to be a pure space. This is, I mean, you can call it the fun of it, you can call it the absolute worst part of it, but this is an unregulated market, collectibles as a whole, where people can fuck around and people will fuck around. And, like, I'm in this hobby because I'm passionate about video games. That's what drew me into this. Yes, there are opportunities to make money. Yes, I speculate on stuff, but I'm also not trying to lose my ass, and I wouldn't be in this. Like, if your only goal is to make money, there's no reason to hang out in this unregulated market, because you can just go into NFTs, crypto, you can just go and do more money things elsewhere. So, I mean, it's really tough. It's tough. It's tough to just be in this and enjoy yourself and enjoy the hobby, because this type of stuff is going to exist in any kind of upper end hobby that you get in, I should say. If you're, messing around with cartridges or complete in box even, you're not going to feel these effects nearly as much. But if you enter into the graded world and auction house world, whether it's cards, coins, comic books, games, it doesn't matter. Historical objects, art, historical books, you're just going to get all the stuff like that. So it just kind of is what it is. It's shitty, and hopefully with talk like this from Karl and videos like this, we will see progression in some ways with regulation, so it at least has to be played a little bit fair, but I just don't know how long it might take before we ever get anything like that. But my guess is we'll never see $1 million game ever again. Johnny, I think we will. I absolutely think we will. I do disagree with you on that point. To be clear, I'm referring to those who didn't want to enter into this particular space and feel vindicated. Those loud voices aren't likely to get actions to remedy the situation. No skin in the game. Yes, it does matter as well in that aspect. I agree with that as well. Plausible deniability. Regulation is more than needed. Exactly. Too much speculation in any market is very problematic. Yeah, in this market, like the video game market got absolutely insane. Like, when Pokemon got fucking insane when Logan Paul did his box break and the Pokemon card market became what it felt like 70% speculation and 30% collectors? That's where we are in the video game world. We entered into that world of way more speculators than collectors, so we get into this insane world of the market is fully predicated upon greater fool theory and trying to create headlines and selling, oh, this is the rarest game ever, get them before you can, blah, 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 games only go up. And that kind of world is extremely dangerous. So it's just kind of where we got to with games. And I mean, we are now seeing a fall in prices. We are swinging the pendulum back the other way. But it's what happens when, obviously games were very strategically, the game market got to where it got, as we're watching with Karl here, through very strategic catalysts, but usually it's a catalyst in one form or another that shoots a stable market into a FOMO market, and then bullshit follows. So, you can call it fun if that's what you like doing, but A lot of people don't like it. I'm somewhere in the middle. I find this craziness very entertaining, very exciting, but I like to watch prices daily. I like to, like, you know, I love being deep in the world and like trying to make good choices, avoiding bad choices, but obviously people don't want to have to do that just in order to enjoy the hobby. So I'm not sharing my soda. Sell your soda for $2.64 a month. Yeah, exactly. 50% off, 40% off. $2.69 a month. If there's 1,000 people in the market, 2 of those people are smart and they speculate, drive the market, and get out while they profit. Video games isn't special. Yeah, exactly. Like, exactly. Speculating in video games is no magic. Like this, it will wear off. The euphoria will wear off. People will move on to the next thing. People already are moving on to the next thing. It just, patience is really the best option when shit like this happens, but people don't want to be patient.
It was a huge conflict of interest for people within WATA Games to buy, sell, and grade games. And yet, not only did he hide the fact that his directors and co-owners were doing this, but he promoted their carts and helped them profit. In essence, it was all a lie. Dennis didn't really care about the conflicts of interest. He just wanted people to not ask questions. He wanted to fool people into thinking that, of course, nothing shady could possibly be going on behind closed doors. The owners of WATA were using the company as their personal tool to profit from the sale of games while Dennis covered it up. And there is no better example than WATA's own chief advisor, Mark Haspel.
Bronco Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling.
Oh, local ads. You guys get some local ads. Look at this.
In area since 1978.
Get some Bronco Plumbing and Heating, boys.
In my previous video, I spoke briefly about Mark.
Now, this is a person like Mark Haspel I actually know very, very little about. So even when he was mentioned in the first video, like, I didn't know his name prior to seeing it in that. So this section to me, I think is going to be basically brand new. So I'm excited for this part. You know you're near the top when a PNG of money on the blockchain costs 100,000 plus. Yeah, well, the NFT world is just beyond me. When the hype settles down, you might seek to buy a little Samsung for 50 bucks. Don't know if we'll ever get that settled. The big buyers will never ever recoup their money ever. They bought the top. Yeah, I think some people, Johnny, like probably will be fucked. They might be fucked for 5 to 10 years, or like you said, forever. So, hot local Bronco heating services near you. Yeah, exactly. All right, let's get into Mark Haspel here.
Mark Haspel, the chief advisor of WATA Games, and how he was intentionally going around buying up games. Specifically, he was buying the kinds of games that ended up rising in value the most. It looked like he already knew where the market was heading, and his position in WATA made those actions very suspicious. Though at the time, there was no concrete evidence of...
You meant monkey? Yeah, you were referencing Bored Apes. I genuinely thought you were talking about a picture of money, which, like, you know, I don't even flinch when you say that a PNG of money might have been selling for $100,000, because really, what's the difference between a picture of monkey and money other than, I know what you're talking about.
Of any wrongdoing. However, on September 1st, journalist Seth Abramson released a bombshell article showing that not only was Mark Haspel grading games, but he was running an entire side business selling them. Abramson discovered this after purchasing some Atari games, which showed Mark Haspel as the sender. Abramson...
Yeah, say what you will about Seth, this was actually a pretty informative article that he wrote about Mark Haspel, about how he just kind of stumbled upon this revelation.
Had also been investigating the WATA heritage collusion and recognized the name. If it wasn't bad enough that the chief advisor was breaking company rules by grading and selling games, it turns out that Mark isn't just the chief advisor, but he's also an investor in WATA Games. After being exposed, Mark went to Facebook to respond, and his response is hilarious. Mark threw his hands up in the air and acted as if he had no involvement in the company. He claimed that he was only a passive investor, and that he had no oversight or made any management decisions. So even though WATA Games was plastering Mark on their website as the chief advisor, and even though Mark traveled with WATA president Dennis Kahn to conventions promoting the company, and even though Mark was listed as a founder of WATA Games, and even though Mark appeared in promotional videos alongside Dennis, when he gets caught running a business selling WATA Games, he acts as if he's not a part of the company. But Mark's apparent lies get exposed even further by Heritage Auctions. In an Old School magazine article promoting the sale of WATA Games at Heritage Auctions, Heritage Vice President Barry Sandoval says something very interesting. He states, "We toyed a little bit with the..."
Barry is the vice president? Barry is the vice president of Heritage? What the fuck? Oh my god, we gotta put some more respect on Barry's name, you guys. That's insane.
The idea of selling video games, but what sold us is that one of WATA's principals, Mark Haspel, used to be with CGC. That he was involved made us take it seriously. So on one hand, Heritage Auctions is saying that the reason they partnered with WATA Games in the first place was because of Mark Haspel. But on the other hand, Mark Haspel is saying that he doesn't even have any oversight at WATA and isn't involved with their operations. It seems as if one of these parties is lying. In my opinion, they are both lying. As I spoke about in my last video, it made no sense that Heritage would partner with WATA before WATA had even launched. VGA had been grading video games for 10 years, so that would have been the logical choice. Instead, Heritage made a deal with a brand new grading company with no credibility. Knowing what we know now, it makes perfect sense, because the chairman of Heritage Auctions, Jim Halperin, was an investor in WATA. He had a personal, vested interest in WATA Games. Mark Haspel was just an excuse Heritage used to explain the relationship, in order to hide the fact that Halperin was a part owner of WATA, and this is likely the true reason that the relationship existed. Mark Haspel, just like Heritage and WATA, believes there is nothing wrong with the founder and chief advisor of WATA running an entire business grading and selling WATA games, which is ironically in contrast to Dennis Kahn's own statement that this is a conflict of interest. A common thread you'll find is that everyone involved refuses to admit that basic ethics are important, even though everyone else in the public seems to universally agree that these lies and deceptive practices are wrong. Which brings us to the Carolina Collection, which, if you remember from the last video, was one of the most complete collections of sealed Nintendo games that existed. It was owned by Dane Anderson, and was purchased by Jeff Meyer in 2019. WATA Games even released a press release about the sale, where Dennis Kahn personally endorsed and promoted the collection, letting people know that not only was this extremely valuable, but it was up for sale. Of course, he also failed to mention that Jeff Meyer was a director of the company, which, and I sound like a bit of a broken record here, broke FTC guidelines. After my video was released, Jeff did respond, essentially saying that what happened was okay because he wasn't an employee. But unfortunately, not only does the FTC not agree, but the public doesn't either.
Surely one of these people have talked about this, right? Jeff Meyer. He has a YouTube channel, right? Surely he's talked about this. I really want to hear what they have to say. Because this seems pretty ironclad.
Let's go,
Someone said that
Charlie!
WATA Games is going after Karl for this video. Karl is always getting targeted by the weirdest people. Like fucking Billy Mitchell. And now WATA Games. Jeff Meyer's statement. Here, I'll put it on screen. Oh, actually, this is dangerous. This is Twitter. Might see the Council of Cock. Jeff Meyer's statement. No one at Go Collect, myself included, was consulted on any of this content. The allegations against me and Go Collect are untrue. I was never employed by WATA. I held a board position because I was a late-stage investor in the company, and I resigned from my board position in January 2020. I would welcome a live stream interview with Karl Jobst. And then Karl responds, my point here seems to be missed. I never called Jeff Meyer an employee. My point is that being a director is worse than being an employee because you have stake, control, and ownership of the company, which was never disclosed to the public. Yeah, I mean, that sounds like so irrefutable. Like, how do you even go against that? Because he was an active director of the company. Like, it's like, what do you even say? Like, no, fuck you, your dick's small, you're wrong. Like, what do you do? Like, you can't do anything.
It's actually insane that, like, his first video was picked up by like the broader Twitch community, and like literally everyone was fucking commenting on his first videos. Yeah, pretty sure. Yeah, that fucking, we were getting hit by bot spam there, trying to cover up the scams here by WATA. That was Big WATA trying to put in. Big WATA trying to distract us from the real story going on here. Disgusting. Johnny Ultimate, $5 donation, man. Much appreciated. Yeah, hot girls here. Streamer recommends. Yeah, exactly. Streamer recommended hot girls. Hopefully you guys grabbed that link there. Hopefully you grabbed it. But yeah, it's insane to see like Charlie commenting on it too. And Mizkif. And like, it just became like a broad video game issue, not like a sealed and graded game market issue. Just like anyone who likes video games was all of a sudden involved in this story. And it's just insane. Like, the amount of camaraderie that came together is insane. Fucking video games, man. They'll bring people together.
Jeff, just like the other previous owners and higher-ups at WATA, don't seem to understand or care about the obvious conflicts of interest. It makes it hard to believe there isn't something shady going on behind closed doors when the things the public can literally see themselves are provably deceptive. Now, the reason I say previous owners is because in July, WATA was purchased by Collectors Universe, which I will briefly discuss at the end of the video. Jeff also responded to my claim that he shut down the database Nintendo Age after purchasing it. His response was kind of bizarre though. Either he doesn't understand or remember what Nintendo Age was, or he is simply lying. Jeff states, "I did not voluntarily shut down Nintendo Age, and it was a forum, not a price guide. The Nintendo Age forums were never taken away, nor were any of the forum's information or discussions." He is correct in saying that the forums were never taken away, as they were moved to his website GoCollect. But Nintendo Age wasn't a forum. Nintendo Age had a forum, but his description of Nintendo Age as a forum makes about as much sense as saying speedrun.com is a forum just because it has one. Nintendo Age was first and foremost a database, and its role as a database was always its primary function.
Now, I saw some people nitpicking this over on Video Game Sage forum. Video Game Sage database? But I saw people nitpicking this part here. I personally would also call Nintendo Age a forum, first and foremost. That forum that had a database in it. Because, like, yeah, the database existed, but by no means was it like a collective effort to maintain the database or ensure that it's up to date or anything like that. Database contributors were far few in between versus people who just showed up daily to participate in buy, sell, trade, or discussion. Like, it functioned as a forum first and foremost up until the day it died. Maybe in the very early years, it was a database more so, but I joined 2011-ish, weird flex, and yeah, it was a forum first and foremost. I also, when Jeff says, like, Nintendo Age wasn't destroyed, it was fucking bulldozed. There was no remnants of anything after it got bought out. I don't think you'll find anyone who is on Nintendo Age that will make the argument that Nintendo Age continued to exist after the buyout. It was a shell of itself. It was nothing that resembled Nintendo Age after the buyout. So, yeah. Just a little bit of nitpicking there, because Karl talks very definitively about that. I don't know. As someone who was there, like, it was more of a hangout, a home, a Discord server. Much more than it was like this database that people, you know what I mean? But just a little bit of discussion there.
You can see on the old website that the forum was merely a tiny section. The majority of the website contained information on every single Nintendo console and every game you could imagine. It was collated and created by passionate collectors over many years, and they sunk countless hours into building it. If you wanted to know information about any game, including its rarity, cost, variation, and much more, this is where you would go. This database is gone. It no longer exists on the internet except for the limited pages you can retrieve through the Wayback Machine. I find it impossible to believe that Jeff doesn't know what he bought, so my instinct is to believe that he is intentionally being deceptive about what Nintendo Age was. And it wasn't just Nintendo Age either. Jeff also bought Sega Age and PlayStation Age. Again, they were databases full.
Imagine having to pay for Sega Age or PlayStation Age. I didn't know Dane scammed him. No, I'm just fucking around. But Sega Age and PlayStation Age had a mere fraction of the user base that Nintendo Age actually had. They were kind of like sister sites, I guess, but like, those were pretty quiet compared to Nintendo Age.
Full of information about games. Everything is gone. Claiming that these websites were just a forum is insane, and is so obviously proven to be a lie, it's astonishing that it was said.
And yeah, I'm not saying it was only a forum either.
Jeff, unlike the other people
that was like the primary
did
use
reach out to me and wanted to talk. Unfortunately, we haven't yet, which, to be honest, is entirely my fault, but we will talk soon. Perhaps there is some misunderstanding here, and it will be interesting to hear what he has to say when we speak. Until then, it does appear as though he's still being deceptive, but I do think given his willingness to talk, that we should hold final judgment until then. I will put his full response in the description. And very quickly, I was also contacted by Dane Anderson, who was the person that sold Nintendo Age and the Carolina Collection to Jeff Meyer. Through our conversation, it really does seem like Dane, if anything, was a victim himself. He was no longer a part of WATA when the transaction occurred, and as far as he was concerned, the websites were to remain online and functional. He didn't know they would go offline, and he advised me that he wouldn't have sold it if he knew this beforehand. Now, throughout this video, you've heard me talk about FTC regulations, and I'm pretty confident in my analysis of the situation. But just to be sure, I asked an actual lawyer to take a look at a few specific...
Inazuma, I'm also surprised he still hasn't spoken to Jeff, because I remember seeing him and Jeff talking on Twitter, I think, like a week after the initial video released. So it's been like, what was it, August, the initial video? September, October, November, like 3 full months? So, I mean, I think that, yeah, he really should have talked to Jeff first. I don't know if anything would have came from having a conversation with Jeff. Yeah, I don't know if it changes any of what is presented by Karl regarding everything, but I guess in the spirit of fairness, I guess, it would have been nice to talk to Jeff.
Instances to get a second opinion. So I would like to give a very warm welcome to Alita from the YouTube channel Legal Bites, who will share her opinion on some of these issues.
Holiday shopping.
And I'm actually super excited to hear what the actual lawyer has to say, because that was something that I was talking about in the original video, is that, like, I don't know actual legal bearing on any of this shit, right? Like, this goes above my head. I'm just a dude who participates in the market, but, like, I can't tell you if someone's acting nefarious or illegal or both. So this is what I'm most excited about for this video. This part is the only part of the video that matters. All right, good. I'm glad that we're gotten to the fucking meat and potatoes finally. 30 minutes in.
My name is Alita, and I'm a lawyer licensed in California and DC. I run the YouTube channel Legal Bites, where we explain the law one bite at a time. Karl asked me to take a look at the situation from a legal perspective, and so I thought I would take a few minutes to highlight a few things. This situation, as Karl has described it, is obviously very concerning to say the least. But is there anything here that would lead us to believe that there might be something happening that is actually unlawful? To figure that out, we'll look at the Federal Trade Commission Act, or the FTC Act, and the FTC guidelines, which are the regulations that give guidance to courts in these kinds of situations. Then we'll apply the rules to 3 situations. First, the 2019 Heritage Auction press release. Second, the 2019 WATA Games press release about the Carolina Collection. And finally, the appearance of Dennis Kahn on Pawn Stars. For starters, the FTC Act generally makes it unlawful to carry out any acts that are either unfair methods of competition in or affecting commerce, or unfair or deceptive acts or practices, again, in or affecting commerce. To determine what kinds of acts the FTC means here, we'll look to the FTC guides. The FTC guides apply to any message that consumers are likely to believe reflects the opinions, beliefs, finding, or experiences of a party other than the sponsoring advertiser. So this can be statements made in advertising on TV or on social media or through press releases. Now, what's important in this case is that the FTC guides require disclosure of any connection between the endorser and the seller of the advertised product that might materially affect the weight or credibility of the endorsement. Another way of putting this is...
Yeah, you can tell she's a lawyer because she had a lot of books on her. Because she had a lot of books in her background. That's a dead giveaway that we're talking to a lawyer here.
The FTC says that if there's some kind of connection between the person selling a product and a person endorsing a product, the presence of two things would require them to tell the public about their connection. Those two things are, first, situations where the connection between the two isn't reasonably expected by the audience, and second, where the public's knowledge of that connection would change how the public gives weight to that endorsement. For example, it's pretty common nowadays to see influencers reviewing certain products and then linking to those products on their platform so that viewers can go and buy them. According to FTC guidelines, if those influencers are getting paid for those reviews in any way, through affiliate marketing or through free products, they have to let the viewer know in that particular product review. And that's because that type of a connection isn't always something that would be obvious to the viewer. And at the same time, someone that has a financial incentive in the success of a product can change how much weight we're going to give to that review. Now, applying this to the 2019 Heritage Auctions press release about the infamous copy of Super Mario Bros. Sold for $100,000. In that statement, several individuals were quoted about the same transaction. You had WATA Games president Dennis Kahn and the buyers of the item, Jim Halperin, Zach Geig, and Rich Leche. If Karl's information sources are correct, all of these individuals have a financial connection of some sort to WATA Games, either as investors of WATA Games or as members of the corporate board. So applying the FTC's requirements, we first have to ask ourselves whether this kind of a connection is reasonably expected by the audience in a transaction like this. And it's reasonable to say no, that we wouldn't expect there to be a big deal made about some outrageous sale of an item between various people with financial interests common to the certifying company. So that's the first question in the analysis. Let's move on to the second one. The next one is...
Yeah, once you get into actual law speak, it's like, whew, shit.
If the public knew about that connection between these people, would they give less weight to the endorsements made in the statement? To lay that out, it's important to understand what in this whole scenario is giving weight in the first place to the crazy valuations of these retro video games. And the thing that gives arguably more credibility than anything else here is the fact that there was an actual sale transaction that happened and that people are hearing about that sale. It's reasonable that most consumers would assume that a transaction is proof of the actual market price of an item. That is, it's a common idea that the real value of an item is the market price, or the price at which the market will support. Specifically, the point at which the buyer and the seller will agree to transfer.
Oh, this woman doesn't know about fake eBay purchases.
The buyer isn't going to buy.
She's going to get taken for a ride.
The item is overpriced. And likewise, on the other hand, the seller isn't going to sell something to someone if they think that they can get a better price somewhere else. So that's why when we see a really big press release about the actual transaction of a particular item, it's reasonable that most people would think that the transaction is pretty solid proof of the sale price as the actual market value of the item. But of course, that only works when we're talking about an organic market. So that leads us back to the second question. If the public actually knew about the financial connections between all of these different individuals, would that change the amount of weight that they would give to the statements made in this press release? Now, you might be ready to say yes, but let me give you just a little bit more nuance here. You see, courts that have analyzed this issue have said that when there is an undisclosed connection between the different parties, you still have to look at the substance of the communications that they made to the public. If they're the type of statements that will materially affect the weight and credibility of the endorsement, then a court may find that these statements are basically unfair or deceptive trade practices. For example, looking to a little bit of case law on the subject, take a roofing certification company that gives something called a Master Elite certification.
Holy shit, she's bringing in like case study at this point. This is actually insane.
For certain roofing companies. where that certification is advertised as one of the main bases for hiring any roofing company, it's unlawful not to disclose the fact that in order to get that certification, the roofing company has to buy a certain amount of their materials for roofing from that certification company. In other words, the process of getting that endorsement, the certification, includes the payment of money rather than a certification of actual skills. And that's because without that disclosure, the public would never know that a Master Elite certification means almost nothing about the actual skills of the roofing company. It just means that the roofing company bought a bunch of their roofing materials from the certification company. Now, it's important to note that courts don't treat all statements in this way. They do distinguish between statements like the Master Elite certification is important for hiring a roofing company and other statements that the courts would call mere puffery. Courts will say that mere puffery statements are more of opinion, they're subjective in nature, and they can't really be proven false because they're really just exaggerations that are reasonably expected to a certain extent of a seller as to the degree or quality of his or her product. Looking back at the roofing company example, statements by the certification company that the Master Elite roofing companies are professional and dependable can't really be proven or disproven. They're kind of just typical sales talk. And because a reasonable consumer can usually tell that mere puffery statements are really just sales, those kind of statements generally are not going to be actionable, even when there's a financial connection that's not disclosed to the public. So in this case with WATA Games, and particularly with the Heritage Auctions press release, we need to figure out if the statements made here are just mere puffery or if they're the kind of statements that materially affect the weight and credibility of the endorsement.
I can't believe that mere puffery is like an actual terminology being used there. It's fucking hilarious. It just sounds like a joke. Yeah, roof equals ceiling equals bubble reached. That's that's the logic train that she's taking us on here. So yeah, exactly. Yeah, we need to find out if WATA is just a bunch of fucking puffer fishes or if this is real deal here. So I agree. Oh my god. And we get we get absolutely smacked in the face by more local ads.
Ask about our next day or
Some statements in the press release just are general projections, saying that they think the future of the retro video game market is likely to shoot forward. Because most reasonable consumers understand that no one can really predict the future, a court would likely look at most of those statements and say that those are probably mere puffery. However, this starts to skirt the edge here when we look at the statement by Karl, where he says WATA certified video games have been selling for record prices ever since Heritage began auctioning them in January. While many video games sell regularly for 5 figures, breaking the 6-figure mark shows that the hobby's upward trajectory indicates no signs of slowing down. This statement about what this particular transaction means for the overall industry is arguably very misleading to the public, who doesn't have knowledge about any other particular financial incentives between the parties to make this transaction. And because it's coupled with an actual transaction here, I don't know that a court would find that this is a statement of just mere puffery. That in turn means that a court could likely find that this kind of a statement violates the FTC rules. But with all that said, there's another statement in the press release that, in my opinion, does even more for this analysis, and that's one that was made by one of the buyers, Geig. In the press release, he said that a copy of Super Mario Bros. Was the equivalent to the extremely valuable comic book, Action Comics #1. He then went on to say, "This is first appearance of Superman of video games. We all knew how hard it is to find an open copy of this version in nice condition, but to find one still sealed is truly something I thought I would never see, even after seeing vintage video games for over 20 years. So not only is this statement describing why he has experience in these kind of matters and in this kind of an industry, he's also describing why he ultimately decided to fork over the large amount of money to buy this item. And the factors that he described were ones that any retro video game collector would likely be looking for in making a similar purchase. So together with the actual transaction here, the statements that were made by the buyer highlighting factors that he found compelling to actually shell out that much cash could be materially affected by the glaring omission that he also had a financial incentive for the game to be sold at such an outrageous price. So to answer that second question then, would the public's knowledge of the financial connection between these different parties affect the weight and credibility that they would give to this endorsement? Personally, I think that in this case, there is a decent argument to say yes. And if a court were to agree with that analysis, they would likely find that the parties involved here violated the FTC rules for unfair or deceptive trade practices. So then let's turn to the 2019 WATA Games press release for the Carolina collection. First, just like in the Heritage Auctions press release, assuming that Karl's information is correct, there appears to be an undisclosed...
Yeah, assuming Karl's information is correct. Even she's starting to question Karl at this point.
...financial relationship.
Surely this isn't as fucked up as he's presented it.
...relationship between the different parties here. WATA Games, Dane Anderson, and Jeff Meyer. All of the analysis from the previous example would apply here because this is a very similar situation where we have a press release about a particular sale transaction that occurred. The only real difference here is that the press release says that the sale of the Carolina collection was for an undisclosed amount. That said, the insinuation here is that the sale was for a very large amount, large enough that they are willing to create an entire category of labeling just for this Carolina collection. The extra labeling for these items gives them a special designation so that people can track its provenance like a historical piece of art. So let's look at the
No, I know it's just lawyer talk when she says, if Karl's correct. I know. I'm just fucking around there.
Two questions in the analysis again. First, would a reasonable consumer expect for there to be a financial connection between WATA Games, the certification company, and the buyer and the seller? Given the analysis from the previous example, I think that the answer is probably not. Then there's a second question. If the public actually knew about the financial connection between these different parties, would that change the amount of weight and credibility that they gave to this particular press release? Now, remember that statements of mere puffery aren't enough to qualify for this part. So any subjective or opinionated statements like general projections of the market in the future probably would be less likely to be actionable. But the statements about why the Carolina collection is so special start to sound a little bit like the Master Elite Roofing certification from the hypothetical I gave earlier. That is, the Carolina collection labeling is marketed in this press release as a potentially important basis for future collections to spend money on these items above retro video games that are certified by WATA outside of this collection that are otherwise exactly the same. Looking at the press release, some of the reasons that they give for this are the uniqueness of the collection, the detail of the overall archive, as well as Dane Anderson's impact on the community, video game collecting, and his documentation of video game history. So all of these are statements that sell to the average consumer why this collection is particularly unique and valuable. And it at the very least implies that a game that's coming out of this particular collection is much more valuable than a similar game that has all of the same features and attributes that just doesn't happen to be in this collection. So this is actually very similar to the Master Elite Roofing certification situation because you have a special designation that's given by a certification company without any disclosure of other reasons why that certification may have been given aside from the actual value of those items. So to me, this seems like this would be a situation where public knowledge of that financial connection between the parties would really affect the weight and credibility that they would give to the endorsements made in this press release. So similar to the Heritage Auctions press release, assuming that a court agrees with this analysis, the press release might actually give these individuals exposure to liability. Now, finally, what about the Pawn Stars episode? If there is an undisclosed...
Yeah, this is very thorough. Very thorough. I'm incredibly impressed that Karl let her have as much screen time as he did in the overall video here. Like, that's great to see. Atari, do Carolina games sell above the non-pedigree of the same grade? I personally don't think I've seen high correlation to pedigree games selling at premium versus their non-pedigree counterparts. I mean, I would have to do more of a study into it to see that if that correlation exists, but yeah, I don't think so by Atari, that there are provable premiums being paid that you could concretely say with the pedigree type games versus non-pedigree. Oh yeah, for sure, Johnny, for sure. I mean, in fairness, I didn't watch the first video with a completely closed mind to it. You know, it's not that I was sitting here and denying Karl's first video. I just don't understand the actual legality of the matters, which is why I wanted to interview him as well, to say that, you know, to get his take on things, to dive deeper, to add more discourse to it. But yeah, I mean, it sounds like they have a case if someone wanted to try taking it out. Oh, okay, Johnny, okay. Yeah, if they actually wanted to, you know, pursue something on this, because that's like the other big thing is you have to, someone somewhere has to be willing to actually pursue this at the legal level, if not the FTC or someone else. I mean, I guess I'm talking about suing. I guess an investigation would have to be launched. Will that ever happen? I don't know. I don't know if it ever will. I mean, she is saying that there are some actionable offenses there, mixed in with mere puffery. But, and then, like, let's say an investigation did happen. How many years are we talking for something to actually happen? and you know, when I say something to actually happen, I think we can all agree that what would happen would be a fine. Right? I think that's kind of all that happens. I mean, when Karl discussed that whole coin bubble back in the 80s, 90s, I believe it was just a fine that was levied against Heritage Auctions. A big fine, albeit, but at this point in time, especially having Collectors Universe resources at their disposal, no fine is going to take down... No fine is going to take down WATA or Heritage at this time. So, I mean, yeah, it'd be great to see it if, you know, this seems pretty concrete. So, yeah, sure, that would be awesome to see. But I don't know if it's going to be a huge... any kind of huge recourse, even if it does happen. And that's not to say that it shouldn't happen. I don't want to see it happen, etc. It's just like, I don't know if this is going to really change much, even if it's all exactly as Karl lays it out. Does that make sense? Basically, WATA didn't mention their full involvement equals price manipulation. Oh, for sure. For sure. And even if the government has seen it, there's so much potential tax money to be made in investigating NFTs and cryptos, casinos, it's not worth the resources to spend time on game market. That's a big thing too. Like, I don't know if they'll chase after this market when unregulated markets in general run absolutely wild to degrees far, far, far bigger than this. So... I hope the government makes an example out of WATA. Yeah, like, you know, that is what it would really take, is WATA being made an example of to a very serious degree, to, like, create some form of, like, regulation in course of all this, in light of all this. But I just don't see... Maybe I'm just crazy, but I don't see video games as being something that brings in like government regulation to unregulated markets that have been acting in this same kind of vein forever. You know, I was going to say 20, 30, 40 years, but literally forever. They're unregulated markets. They're unregulated markets because they've never had regulation. So that's just been forever. The T. Martin Syndicate CSGO situation only got FTC attention because it was literally child gambling. Those two guys got off without any fines and did not have to admit guilt. Holy shit, I didn't realize that that was the end of that. I thought they did get fine diddles. I didn't realize that they walked away pretty much scot-free from the whole situation. That's insane. Hey man, I just got recommended one of your vids like 5 months ago and was wondering why you only have 4.7k subs. Super underrated. Much appreciated, handsome. Much appreciated. Channel's still pretty new, only 1 year old, so I mean, growing it every day, man. Stop calling it a hobby and call it investments and then you'll see regulation. Well, that's the thing though, right? Like, how much of the world looks at the idiocy of buying alternative assets as investment type materials or financial instruments. That's a whole nother hurdle of getting to a point of regulation, is seeing coins, or maybe coins art, I guess those are one of the most established, but comic books, trading cards, video games, Funko Pop, other bullshit you can buy, being treated in any kind of, holy fuck, I'm spitting. Jesus, I'm getting excited over here. Being treated as any kind of financial instrument. So, I just don't know if we'll ever get to an insane type of regulatory period, even if an FTC fine comes through on this stuff. So, long rant there, long tangent, got caught up with you guys. Let's get back to over Rick Harrison, and this is his pawn shop.
Disclosed financial connection between WATA Games and Pawn Stars, we would be looking for some kind of a statement endorsing the product. But in this particular case, I think it actually would be a little bit more difficult to say that the guys at Pawn Stars are opening themselves up to liability here. At most, it appears that what they're doing here is highlighting WATA Games as an authority in this space. But importantly, the Pawn Stars guys don't make any representations that they are well informed in the area of retro video games themselves. To the contrary, the whole reason that they bring Dennis Kahn from WATA Games is because the Pawn Star guys say that they really don't know enough about the market to be able to adequately evaluate the item themselves. And so they say that they look to the labeling on the game, do some basic research about WATA Games, and conclude that WATA is probably a good enough authority to turn to figure out the proper estimate of the item. All of this seems like basically what any reasonable consumer would do. There's nothing here that jumps out at me as an overt endorsement of the item, although they do give WATA a certain sense of legitimacy and credibility by bringing Kahn onto the show. So in the case of the Pawn Stars episode, I would say that the Pawn Stars guys are actually less likely to be exposed to liability here. But as one last bit of detail here, if we turn our attention to the seller who actually brought the item in the first place, the same might not be true for him. Again, assuming Karl's information sources are correct, there appears to be another undisclosed financial relationship between this seller and WATA Games. And by all appearances on the show, it looks like they don't know each other at all, and he may even be surprised to see someone from WATA Games showing up there. Applying the same analysis from the two press releases, the statements that he makes about what he sees about the valuation of the item mean that there might actually be some exposure to liability for him and WATA Games, and potentially Dennis Kahn as an individual as well for FTC violations. So those are all my thoughts in the situation. Thanks so much to Karl for including me in this project.
And I'll see you guys at Canadian Tire.
I think we can confidently say that Heritage, WATA, and its owners broke FTC regulations. But at the end of the day, that's only half of the story. The real issue is the conflicts of interest. The deceptive and unlawful marketing is just a symptom of an underlying disease that seems to be prevalent in these companies. And unfortunately, things probably won't improve anytime soon. In July, WATA Games was purchased by Collectors Universe, which owns grading companies for coins, trading cards, and now video.
Yeah, I had to turn up my TV in order to hear Alita, and then when Karl came back, I was like, oh fuck, and like Karl was screaming and my mic started picking it up. That's why. That's why Karl was sounding like a god there for a second.
Video games. But not only that, in July, it also purchased Golden Auctions, which sells trading cards and now video games. Okay, this is future Karl, and technically what I'm saying here is not correct. Collectors Universe did not buy Golden Auctions. Golden Auctions was purchased by the company that owned Collectors Universe. It won't change anything I'm about to say, but it's more accurate. So you have the same company that owns both the grading companies and the auction house they are sold through. If you thought Heritage Auctions and WATA were colluding before, this is taking things to the next level. They are now literally owned by the same entity. So if the price of games or other collectibles go up, they make money both through the grading companies and the auction house through which they are sold. the obvious conflict of interest again arises, because if games are graded higher, they sell for more. Therefore, there is a direct profit incentive for overgrading games. Does this mean it will definitely happen? Not necessarily, but in my opinion, if you open the door for fraud, it eventually accepts the invitation and creeps in. On a more positive note, the public reaction to my first video seems to have created some positive change. Since its release, both WATA and VGA have made statements advising that they will begin to release population reports shortly. Hello, it's Future Karl again. Literally today, WATA released some data on NES games. It's really incomplete, but at least something is starting to come out. The pushback from the public against their deceptive practices does seem to have some kind of effect, even if it is slow. The word seems to be getting out that people will no longer tolerate it. It really seems as though more and more people are becoming aware of what the people in control are doing. On September 19, a sealed copy of Sonic the Hedgehog was sold through Golden Auctions for $430,000. The creator of Sonic, Yuji Naka, retweeted the sale asking if it was a scam, and the responses from the public were hilarious. Even gaming journalists picked up the...
I'm glad that Karl sees the humor in the responses to that being hilarious, as this dude who created Sonic and just like, you know, really has nothing to do with this whole world, asked if it was a scam, and he was absolutely bombarded with links and just links to Karl's videos, as well as angry Twitter mobs yelling as loud as they can that yes, this is a scam, look at Karl's video, blah blah blah. So I'm glad that Karl can say the response was hilarious. I don't know if he means hilarious like that, but to me when I saw that I was like, oh my fucking god, like chill you guys, this guy is not that interested, just calm down, let's let the creator of Sonic just chill a little bit, you know what I mean? Jesus Christ, we got hit by more bots? It's insane. Oh yeah, I've seen Pat and his episode of Pawn Stars as well. Absolutely I have. He went on there to push his NWC gold cartridge, gray cartridge. But yeah, I've seen that a long time. A long time. He needs better thumbnails. I hope that's not my thumbnails. I got some good thumbnails. I'm proud of my thumbnails. I fear the collectible bubbles is going to pop soon with the unsustainable amount of speculation that continues to exist. Graded cards, crypto, etc. I'm not a financial advisor, however. Well, I mean, we're already seeing pullbacks, Mike, in almost every market that exists in the collectible field. Like, within each field, you can still find items going up. But if you were to just, like, blanket statement how a lot of these markets are going right now, a lot of them are on the decline. I was going to say downcline. Jesus Christ. Yeah, exactly. He had to go fast, researching all the links people were chucking at him. Just hilarious. I need better thumbnails? Come on. Come on, be nuts. Come on, be nuts. A little sad Karl didn't link your channel in his description. Ah, it's okay. That's okay. That's okay. I mean, I can't be mad, Super Junk. I literally got like 2,000 to 3,000 subs when I interviewed him, so like, what am I supposed to say, right? Karl, my symbiotic relationship with Karl couldn't be much better with what this did for my channel, as well as any positive effects it might have had on the hobby that I participate in, so good enough.
The story. And what's great is that in these articles they reference my video calling out the unethical practices of WATA. These days, you can't mention WATA without having to call attention to its shady past, and WATA only has itself to blame. This Sonic sale is also another perfect example of how the WATA rating system is completely broken. This particular game received a rating of 9.4 for the box and A for the seal. According to the WATA rating scale, an A rating indicates a seal that exhibits some light to medium scuffing or other detracting marks, as well as no more than a few minuscule holes, usually seen at the corner edges. But people were very quick to point out that the seal on this copy of Sonic had a massive tear that spread across more than half of the box. This gash is huge. Realistically, if WATA's grading scale meant anything, this seal deserves a rating of C+, because it contains a single major detraction. Imagine paying $430,000 for a game that's supposed to have an A rating, but when you get it, it contains a massive hole in the seal. At the end of the day, the hole doesn't even matter. People aren't buying the game, they are buying the fact that WATA says it's a 9.4 A, and the reality of the actual condition of the product is completely meaningless. There is no better example than Super Mario 64. The original sale of $1.5 million for a Super Mario 64 was what made me investigate this market to begin with, and it only seems fitting that I end on this note. Alongside Sonic, Golden Auctions also auctioned a 9.8 A++ Super Mario 64, the exact same game and rating that Heritage sold for $1.5 million back in July. This time, it sold for $799,000, half of the price just 2 months earlier. But the far more interesting sale to me was another Super Mario 64, only this one was graded by VGA. It was a mint 95, which collectors would generally consider to be as good, if not better quality, than a 9.8 A++ WATA graded game. This one sold for $240,000. So despite the condition of the game being comparable, if not better, it only sold for a fraction of the cost. It's blatantly obvious that people aren't spending so much money because they want the game, they are simply buying the rating. Jim Halperin and Dennis...
I mean, to what Karl's saying, yes, there are a lot of people out there who do simply chase the grade rating, and that is where I don't really participate in the grading world. Like, I don't ever buy a WATA 10.0 or a VGA 100 because they sell for massive, massive premiums because at the end of the day, because of the number on it, where the actual difference between a 10.0 and a 9.8 or a 100 versus 95 plus is going to be virtually undetectable. And this happens in every grading hobby where people are literally just going to buy the grade, not the item inside, which is why people in the hobbies for any degree of time always parrot the saying, buy the game, not the grade, buy the card, not the grade, because you actually have to look at the item yourself still, because there are inconsistencies in the methodology of grading, which is just natural human inconsistency, unfortunately. When people want to say that people, I'll leave that. That's enough of that. Yeah, that Sonic with the hole in it, obviously, big fucking issue. The seal grade ratings on WATA, though, are so soft from everything we see that, like, that being an A isn't... It didn't even strike me as odd at the time. Like, yeah, it could be a B+, I guess, but, like, most A seal ratings have egregious forms of wear at this point in time, so... that just is what it is. If I make a mistake, just say I'm Canadian and we'll all believe it's a normal way to say it up there. Yeah, that's a great idea, Joseph. You get it, man. I need to do that. Where does he get the VGA 95 better than 9.8 A++? No other sales have proven that. In fact, it's the opposite. If you want top dollar selling on Heritage, WATA is what sellers do. Yeah, no, I agree fully. I would say that 95 and 9.8 A++ should be comparable in condition, but I mean, it's very blatantly obvious at this point in time, and had been obvious prior to that example that, yeah, WATA was going to outsell VGA no matter the grades. A VGA 100 might have outsold it, but that's it. At this point in time, WATA has taken, like, you need to have the 9.8 A++ if you want to get that peak top speculator investor bullshit money. It just is what it is. That's where we're at. So, there's no universal standard for grading. That's why it's subjective. And I have two working eyes. I don't need someone telling me what my collectibles should be graded valued at. He's talking about seal quality by Atari. Adam, you and I both know 95, 90 plus, and 100 exceed. Yeah, like, that's what I mean, Joseph. I agree there. Like, it just is. Then that 95 was looked at, it was not a 9.8. It would have been flipped to a WATA 9.8. They said it was a 9.6. Okay, I've heard about that as well, Sarah, so I'm glad you bring that up. And that is another part of this story here with the 95 and the 9.8 A++. And when it gets very difficult to make those straight comparisons, I mean, there has been no official body to say something like that, so it is just the word of some collectors saying that. I have heard it a bunch of times now, Sarah, though, so, I mean, I do have faith that the people saying it and presenting it are informative enough to trust that opinion, but it is another thing to get into there. But how many, if any, WATA 10.0 or VGA 100 games are there? I tried to look them up before and never saw any. Only a handful, John. Only a handful. On the NES Pop Report that came out, there was one WATA 10. So a few days ago, you saw Nintendo Switch Monopoly was 100 grading for 50K. Yeah, but be nutser. I mean, you can't fall for the trap of just looking at high eBay listings. That's like the whole Reddit mentality where, like, you know, the video game collecting Reddit, they love to just like post a high listing on eBay, where me, you, or anyone could literally go post anything on eBay with a high asking price, and it has no validity on the actual value of an item. And that's graded or ungraded. I can go list Duck Hunt for 10K. It has no bearing on reality, and frankly, I don't know why people even draw attention to them. They are as close to like nothing. They're literally nothing. They aren't funny. They aren't exciting. They're nothing. They aren't bullshit. They aren't a scam. They are nothing. It's like you just have someone who puts something on the website to take up space. So just keep that in mind. When you look and you see just ridiculous postings, there's just nothing. How did no one else laugh when Karl said this gas is huge? I'm thinking of cracking my WATA graded cases. The grades were totally off. Yeah, some people have, that's the inconsistencies. I mean, there's no guarantee that you're going to get a different grade anyway when you submit back, but
Khan executed their plan perfectly.
There's a minute left here. I want to get to the end.
WATA is king, and the
I'm stalling for content at this point.
people involved are much richer than they were before. But in saying that, not every collector in this market is evil, nor do they behave like the owners of WATA. I've spoken with collectors, and as I said at the beginning of the video, they generally agree that many of the things that were done weren't ethical. If rich people want to spend hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars on video games, so be it. But don't lie to the public. Don't deceive or trick people. I think we can all agree on that. And even if the current video game market isn't a scam and these games really are worth that much, the way it was created was wrong and some responsibility needs to be taken. A big thank you to Alita from Legal Bytes for sharing her expertise. Please show your support by subscribing to her YouTube channel. I will link it in the description. As always, thank you so much for watching, you legends. I hope you are having a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next video.
So there we go. Wow. So, go check out Greg on YouTube. So yeah, in watching that, there wasn't a ton of new stuff brought to the table. I do agree with that, where people were saying. But I mean, I think it was really worthwhile for him to double down on the actual legality of the matters without having any kind of fluff or like there was very little opinion in this video. So it was really nice to see him just really hammering home actual legality stuff and where actionable offense is versus what might be mere puffery versus what might just not be illegal versus manipulating or bullshit but actually illegal. And I mean, I know it's a gray area and he says stuff about like I'm trying to keep my thought together here. Just because it isn't illegal doesn't mean it's bad, which I agree with. There is stuff still taking place that is not fair, is being manipulated, is being purposely done to inflate value for the people who hold the chips, for the most part. Which, I mean, sure, I hold some chips, it helps me out, that's cool, but far more, I enjoy participating in this hobby than any kind of get-rich-quick scheme. Any kind of monetary incentive or money that's made or any kind of that shit, for most people who actually participate in the hobby, is like a positive benefit of being here so long and a positive benefit of paying so much attention. It's not the first and foremost goal for most of the people participating. But Thumbs up while drinking a soda? That's an endorsement. Reported. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You caught me, Joseph. At this point, like, fucking cranberry. This is no name. I am buying Superstore brand PC cranberry ginger ale. I'm not even buying, like, Coke or Pepsi here. This is the no name shit. In-store brand story. Got him. Yeah, got him. The problem is these crooks live in the gray area and need to shine a light on it. Yeah, that's what I mean. And that's why I have no issue with Karl making these videos. Because it just is what it is, right? If they are going to operate in a gray area where they aren't operating illegally, and what they do benefits them, obviously, then I see no issue with someone like Karl entering into this field as well and fleshing out all of the activities that are taking place, because this is what it means to be unregulated and free. And if we're all going to operate in gray area, then there should be no issue with Karl shedding light on said gray area. So, yeah, can't wait to crush the disturbing movie Iceberg. I think I did watch his full video on it. This is just a clip of it. I'm pretty sure I watched the disturbing movie Iceberg, though. Guy makes good videos. I can't remember his name, though. There will always be people who shine a light on injustice, no matter how small or what market. Those were two good videos. Yeah, absolutely, right? Absolutely. And when you started off that sentence there with, there will always be people who will shine a light on injustice, it sounds like you're like the intro to a Batman movie, so I also want to point that out. But, yeah, I mean, great video. It didn't introduce a ton of new stuff. I don't think this one will get quite the traction that the other one got, just because the bomb drop had already happened. But I do hope people watch it, and I hope that, you know, something comes of it. Hopefully. Hopefully something good for all of us come from it. I like to hope that Karl's original video did have something to do with pop reports finally being released. I always believed they were coming no matter what, but it might have sped up the process. It might have led to them. Who knows, right? Who knows? But buy Atari, $20, money for a new shirt. I have to get fucking... The next goal is for me to get a custom... to get a custom tank top made that just says fucking Greg across the chest, so that's where your guys' donations are gonna go. We gotta get some Greg tanks. We'll get there soon. As a customer, I can't see why any collector wouldn't appreciate them being held accountable for shady stuff. I think it's just too much of an invested interest in the money side, Superjunk. Because negative discourse might lead to market downturn, where if you are buying at peaks, or if your main goal is to make money on this, negative discourse hurts. I mean, you know, any attention is good attention. Kind of. But if the attention really is that negative, like, it does hurt. So, yeah, I like the first one better too, Mike. 100%. The first one really was, you know, the first one was fluffier, though. The first one was more opinion. The first one was more pointed. It was more drama. This one was more so, like, following up on it and getting more into the nitty-gritty. So, yeah, the first one is obviously hard to top. Maybe a good idea if it's a bidder associated with the auction company shows up as a label in the bids. Maybe a good idea if the bidder is associated with the auction company. I don't know if that would ever come up, Anime. I mean, I'm pretty sure Heritage has a clause in their own... I'm pretty sure Heritage allows people to bid on their own stuff. Do they not? Like, I don't think that's taboo. Maybe I'm misremembering, but I thought there were clauses in Heritage's own text set that internal employees are allowed to bid on their own stuff. I assume consigners aren't allowed to bid on their own stuff, but internals absolutely can. But Even anonymizes bidders lists just like eBay. Like eBay would be nice. Does it not? I thought it did. Yeah, and that's why it's more entertaining. Exactly. The first video was just straight drama bait. So, I mean, it just blows up. These types of videos won't hurt prices. People who are into high-end sealed games will still buy, and those who didn't buy before will still avoid them. Yeah, that's like... I think about it a lot by Atari. Because, like, new entrants coming in. How much... Like, if people get turned away from the market so much... At what point do we need new entrants to come into the market in order to sustain, not just sustain price action, but sustain interest, to sustain liquidity, to the point where if every person who's not currently in the hobby only knows of the hobby through negative connotation, it becomes harder to get these people into the actual, like, fun of the hobby. But, you know what I mean? I know that, like, yes, a lot of people won't come into it, or it doesn't affect a ton of stuff of people who are already in it, but at what point do we actually need new entrants, and how many of those new entrants are just going to be completely turned off, completely ignore this shit? So... Yeah, I don't think consigners are officially allowed to bid super junk, but, like, how hard is it in 2021 to have a proxy account? You know what I mean? So, like, it is what it is. That's another one of those things where just, like, a lot of this is unverifiable, unprovable. We can't do anything about it. Yeah, you'd have to sell to someone. If people are turned off, who do you sell to? Yourself? Yeah, well, right? Then it becomes an illiquid market and it just kind of dies. But what would a consigner bidding on their item actually do? They would just bid it up, Cal Summers. Like, say I had another account, I could just go and bid on my own items on auction. It would just inflate the bidding. It's called shill bidding, Cal. The first video was community, this one was for the FTC? Yeah, hopefully he wrapped it up in a nice little, like, I'll put it on a floppy disk or something and sent it over to the FTC directly. If people would stop sending games to WATA, the market would be less cheaper. I don't assume you mean the market would be more expensive, which is kind of what less cheaper means. But yes, the market would... WATA games at this point, it's almost killing itself through a saturation where so much stuff is being submitted to WATA, and we have so much backlog and so much stuff coming out of WATA that, yeah, okay, that's what I thought, Benutzer. That, the saturation, like, demand has to keep up with the amount of items being graded. And if no new entrants ever want to enter, then it becomes hard for all of these items to come out through WATA and for people to still pick them up and care. So the market is, at this time, most stuff, going downwards. Whether that's a saturation thing, whether it's a Christmas season Sarah had mentioned earlier, it's, you know... Yeah, as pops grow, prices might go down. Like, there is a correlation there, a negative correlation. So... It's all complicated in those regards. We should all make our own grading and auction company that are loosely related without mentioning it. Yeah, seriously. Fuck, it seemed like everyone was making their own grading company. At the height of the Pokemon boom, I swear, there were like fucking 22 grading companies for cards. Everyone literally was making their own company, so... You recently got the AV cable for an N64 I bought for 15 bucks and it actually works. The dude gave me Mario Kart with it too. Nice, man. Very nice, Cal. No complaining about that. I'll open fire and you can open ice and someone open air. Yeah, exactly. God. That's kind of like where, you know, it literally got to at some point, so... It just got stupid. But, you know, we have CGC entering right away, which That's going to be another catalyst upwards. And if CGC can just do a good job, play it straight, be consistent with all of the negative press WATA currently has, like they're in a good position to take the market by storm and actually make waves very quickly. Like WATA beat VGA very quickly due to VGA doing fuck all. If WATA now has this negative downturn on them and CGC enters with excitement and they really try to capitalize on all of these people who are now turned off from WATA games, they could do really good really quick with a more casual crowd that will then push into a more mature crowd as time passes. But there's a ton of people now out there who own both expensive and inexpensive sealed video games, both vintage and modern, that want nothing to do with WATA games. And that is where CGC can really take a lot of market. So, yeah, and fix the labels. I do agree. I don't like CGC card labels, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there about what there's actually going to be about them, you know. But, yeah. You're calling your grading company, yeah, double VGA, WATA. I have to assume CGC 10s are still going to be impossible. I have to assume that they're going to stay as stringent and as tight as they are with their card grading. So I do have to assume that. And it's funny that CGC, despite even if it's consistent and good grading, they kind of shoot themselves in the feet. They shoot themselves a bit in making the 10 so hard to get because the collector perception wants a 10, but if CGC is going to cuck you at every turn and give you a 9.5 on a basically perfect card, people are just going to use PSA or other companies that'll give out the psychological 10 and preference will go that way. It's really a weird thing. Still need my address for the free CGC slab. I'll get that to you, DeGreen. I'll absolutely get that to you. I mean, I'm not going to turn down a free CGC slab. I'll never turn it down, man. I don't think there's a lot of ungraded cardboard games out there. There isn't anime. I mean, 3 years, yes, we had a ton of wave going into WATA, but like, I don't think we're going to see populations explode in the next 5 years like some people do, but I do still think there's going to be a lot being discovered in the next 3 to 5 years. You know, what is a lot is very hard to say when we're talking about pop reports right now of like 20 to 50 games, but it's really hard to say. Your biggest criticism of WATA is the SNES and N64 case? Yeah, me too, Joseph. I mean, I also absolutely abhor their quality control and like other little issues with the actual service. But yeah, the N64 and SNES cases are abominations. I don't know why they did that. Alright, the pitch. Big nut grading cone. Instead of grading with numbers, we use a scale revolving around nut types. Example, pistachio is a 10, walnuts a 1. That way you get meme Dogecoin type hype. Yeah, really though, right? If Dogecoin, Shiba Inu, and anything else has taught me anything, the power of memes is strong, man. So, get it going. So is the video game tank... So is the video gonna, oh my god, I can't read anymore. Is the video gonna tank the market so I can buy all the high grades on the cheap? I don't think we're gonna get there, Alma. I don't think we're gonna get there. Not from this one, not yet. A CGC 10 in comics is unheard of, so that makes sense. Yeah, that's what I mean. I think they're gonna stay consistent with that. Absolutely. VGA should make their cases look cooler. They're pretty bland look-wise. They are, like, I agree that it would be nice if the VGA case did have... Like, I like all the information WATA puts on their case, absolutely. But I also really do like the sleek design of the VGA case. So, aesthetics always are a preference thing. I don't know which planet you guys are living on. I don't know what planet you guys are living on, but I will have my games graded at WATA. Yeah, you should have your games graded at WATA. It sounds like they're going to have a really nice service coming forward. Yeah, I mean, these booms and collectibles get all the basement-ridden vintage video games that families have, which makes older games even more rare every wave. Yes. So, like, that's kind of how it works. Like, the prices go up, supply comes out, prices come down, supply stops. if prices go up again, supply might come out again, which then brings prices down again. It's just a matter of how many times that cycle is going to happen. And if that cycle is going to repeat itself, because, you know, demand and supply has to keep jumping over each other as we continue to go. So, absolutely. It's why it's really hard to gauge stuff. You can't gauge if something is rare if it's inexpensive. Because as soon as something becomes expensive, you might see a wave of supply and then it's no longer rare. So, it's really weird in collectibles. WATA's backlog is huge. Who knows how many games are in there? They're taking months to encapsulate orders. They must be backed up with a lot of different stuff. Oh yeah, their backlog is massive, man. Like massive, massive. How much is in there? The question of the backlog is how much in the backlog is actual vintage games? How much is NES, Super Nintendo, N64 even, versus like PS2, Wii, Wii U? You know what I mean? Like, you have to assume a lot of the backlog is not going to be premium, factory-sealed Mike Tyson Punch-Outs, Marios, Final Fantasies, and other valuable NES titles versus Grand Theft Auto trilogies, or just more common games. So, that's really the big kicker on the backlog. Should we buy 1,000 sealed copies of Soccer Boy on Game Boy? I have to assume you mean Soccer Boy. Is that like the GBA one? Soccer Kid? Maybe you mean? Otherwise, I don't think I know Soccer Boy. My mind went to Soccer Kid on GBA and probably the PAL version. Because I think the NTSC version is kind of rare. Pretty rare, actually. VATA sounds like a Chinese ripoff of WATA. It's like the McDowells of game collecting. What does... I don't know that reference. I don't know that reference, Joseph. Lots of the backlog is CIB junk, which takes more time. Yeah, that's exactly right. I forgot to even mention that, is CIB games are also part of that backlog, which, yes, is just killing it. So, yo, WS6 Driver. Good to see you in here, man. So... dude, if WATA ever opens up DS, 3DS, I'll flood their warehouse myself. That's what I mean. If we ever get there, like, you know, people always ask, like, oh, when are they going to open up DS and 3DS? Like, fucking never. Never. When are they ever going to be in a spot to handle the absolute waves of DS and 3DS that they will receive if they open up to that? It'll be absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. So... oh, it's Dave, not Dan. Nice, man. Yeah, I completely forgot that that's your handle. I'm glad you pointed that out. So. Coming to America, Eddie Murphy classic movie. Sorry, guys. Sorry, guys. Am I showing my age on this one? Am I showing how young I am? What year is this movie here? 1988. Oh, you guys. How am I supposed to know a film from 1988? I tell ya. WATA should troll and start doing special edition slabs, rare game plus limited edition WATA case equals bank. Yeah. Seriously though. Like, yeah. Yeah. I mean, already what kind of WATA did with their, like, allowing some PS4 games, some DS and stuff already seems pretty questionable, but who am I to say? What's the scam this time? The same stuff, Terry, but Karl went into much more detail now, breaking down the actual legality of what was claimed in the first video. So if you wanted to know more about, you know, where actual legality lies and much more nuanced detail involved with all the characters, this is a good video for you. Do I think it would be best if they just got rid of grading CIB? No, but they kind of need to, like, separate the queues if they aren't already and cancel CIB until they have the necessary processes to do it properly. Yo, appreciate you, Joe Nev. The awful tank tops show my age. Oh god. It's literally on television since 1988. Those games from the 80s from the back of the hands, but movies, it's true, man. I'm not good with movies. My pop culture with movies is not good. I will be the first to admit that. Not my wheelhouse. Not a huge movie guy. Cool Runnings? Never seen it. Never even heard of it. Terry Gill. Yeah, never even heard of it. Sorry, guys. Sorry, guys. "1988 isn't that old? I'm sure you've seen E.T. and that came out in 82. Yeah, it's one of those things where 88 isn't that old, but if we're talking about like every popular movie in the 80s, I've seen like 20. So I'm not a good gauge for if a movie is relevant enough that it should have lasted throughout the years. So, I mean, hey, I'll be the first to admit it. The problem you have with grading CIB is that then I could not look at the manual or cart anymore. I get it for sealed as I couldn't anyway, but CIB seems a bit weird. Yeah, I don't love CIB grading myself, Achu. Like, I don't, but I understand why it needs to exist. Like, CIB grading for a lot of people will be the substitute or the next best option, or even just a much cheaper way to put your game inside of a nice display case. So I get it, but yeah, I'm not huge on it either. Coming to America is almost as prevalent as Back to the Future or Indiana Jones. I think we reference it weekly in my family. No shot, Joseph. No shot am I giving you that level of relevancy. No shot. No shot. One of the joys of CIB is busting out that manual and sniffing the cardboard? Yes. Yes. Agreed fully, Super Junk. Agreed fully on that note. With that said, though, thanks for coming out to the watch party, everyone. That was a ton of fun. Great video. Loved it. I love doing these impromptu streams, and I love the turnout that they get. So thanks for coming to hang out tonight. I will get this edited and put up the supercut version. Probably tomorrow, honestly. I'm probably going to stay up late tonight and get this shit done, just because if I don't know when I'll get to it. So I'll get it cut up, put it up for anyone who missed the full VOD video, and yeah, go from there. Hopefully more content coming soon. We'll see. I love making content. I want to do it. Go watch Coming to America now. I will not do that, Joseph Leo. I can promise you that. Yeah, ginger ale sponsorship to close it. It's been a great night with the ginger ale, the cranberry ginger ale. Get your cranberry Sprite if you can as well. I'll see you guys Tuesday at the absolute latest. Hopefully I have more videos up on the weekend. We'll see how it goes. But I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good night.